If hours of endless sunshine, miles of unspoilt beach and gallons of fruity rum cocktails sound appealing, then keep watching today's episode of Planet Cruise Weekly because we're visiting the Eastern Caribbean. Well, hello and welcome to episode 37 of Planet Cruise Weekly with myself, Keith, and the effervescent Glenn.
Effervescent, there you go.
Do you like that?
Yeah,
I was trying to improve my vocabulary.
Sounds like an aspirin.
That probably is, isn't it? Now, where were you? Because last week it was all about the spas, which I know was your favourite subject.
I'm not sparring. I'm not. So they had to use Jade, didn't they? Because she's looking a bit more sort of glamorous and stuff for spas. So
now you may remember, if you cast your mind back to episode 32 of Planet Cruise Weekly, we explored the Western Caribbean. Now click here if you want to view that right now. But today, Glenn, we're focusing on the Eastern Caribbean.
The Eastern Caribbean itself is the most popular destination for cruise passengers, and again, it is a great place to go and see. Now, when you're out in the Eastern Caribbean, there are so many things to do. It's just not laying on the beach. You can obviously hike through the lush rainforests, tour the homes of the native artists, or simply relax on a picture postcard beach with the waves hit you against the toes, and that's what we tend to do.
So first, let's establish exactly where the Eastern Caribbean is, because again, most people know roughly where the Caribbean is, but splitting it down to Eastern, Western and Southern is a bit more complicated.
I didn't know anyway.
And to be honest, I didn't know that much until we started looking at it. So it's interesting to know. So, right, first of all, technically the Eastern Caribbean region encompasses the British and American Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, islands like St Kitts, and then the two-nation one island of St Maarten,
which are really, really beautiful to go and see, and we'll talk about that very shortly. Now, although some of the Eastern Caribbean cruise itineraries also include the Bahamas, this is not officially part of the Caribbean, and Grand Turk in Turks and Caicos. We're going to look at these later in a separate episode of Planet Cruise Weekly, so stay tuned for that.
Now, of all the regions in the world, the Eastern Caribbean offers the most choice for cruising. Nearly every cruise line, minor or major, offers some type of itinerary that either concentrates on the region or at least touches a port or two, which makes the prices really competitive and your choice wide and varied.
It does, and voyages not only depart from the region's major jumping off ports like Miami and Fort Lauderdale, but also other East Coast ports ranging from, of course, New York City and Charleston, and several British companies choose to depart from the very, very popular Barbados.
Now, ports like St Thomas and St Maarten and San Juan are ideal for first-time cruisers as they're more developed for tourists, so it's a lot easier for you to get around and to get involved. And there are plenty of well-organised activities, from duty-free shopping to water sports to tours of the historic sites. So Glenn, when exactly is the best time to go to the Eastern Caribbean?
Okay, the Eastern Caribbean is an ideal spot for a getaway any time of the year, to be quite honest, with temperatures that seldom vary from highs of about 80 degrees to lows of about 70, so it's beautiful weather out there, not to mention the humidity that stays around 70% throughout the year.
Now, high season typically begins in December and runs until mid-April, so it is perfect for those people wanting to escape the colder winters of the US, Canada and Europe. And this is when the European companies will reposition a ship to cruise around that area.
But also some US-based cruise line also offers summer cruise into the Caribbean, as the only major difference between winter and summer is slightly warmer climes. The positive of this is that it's actually not as searingly hot as you might expect, and prices tend to be a bit lower as well, so if it's price you're looking at, this is a good time of year to go. But it does tend to bring a little bit more stormy weather, and of course you've got the increased chances of the hurricanes.
Now, hurricane season officially runs from June the 1st through to around November the 30th, but the real months to try and avoid are August, September and October. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at some of the main ports of call situated within the Eastern Caribbean region. But if you'd like to go straight to some of the deals that head to this part of the world and you're already captivated, click the link there and it will take you through to some of our destination experts. Now, St Kitts is jagged volcanoes, dense rainforest and rolling fields of sugarcane. That pretty much characterises
every island in the Caribbean.
That's very true, yeah. However, I do have a special place in my heart for St Kitts. And in fact, along with its neighbour Nevis, St Kitts presents an exotic landscape that's almost more akin to Polynesia than it is the Caribbean. It really is green and lush.
It is a really, really great island, and the terrain there is rich soil, and the climate make it an ideal location for raising the sugarcane. In fact, St Kitts and Nevis was once the crown jewels of the Caribbean. Today, British and French heritage is evidenced on both islands, with Basse-Terre, the capital of St Kitts, boasting fine restored colonial buildings and a great opportunity to wander around those and take in the history.
Now, also a great place to do, and what I would definitely advise, is to go to the impressive Brimstone Hill Fortress. It's known as the Gibraltar of the West Indies. It's one of the most impressive fortresses in the whole Caribbean and gives you some amazing views out to sea and along the coastline. Now, if you want to have a look back at the old colonial life of the island, then I'd recommend visiting Romney Manor. It's the oldest sugar plantation on St Kitts, and in fact it was once owned by Sam Jefferson II, an ancestor of the US President Thomas Jefferson.
Now the main thing to do, which a lot of people do, and it was very, very popular when I was tours manager on there, is the St Kitts Railway. And it's a vintage double-decker sightseeing train that showcases the historic sugarcane route. You chug over ravines 300 feet deep. You also circle Mount Limawega, pardon my pronunciation, the volcano there, and also you get to take a sneak peek at the island's black sandy beaches. The good thing with the train is all the locals come out and see all the tourists going past on the train. You sit back, take in the views, have a couple of drinks on there, and you can do that tour in the morning. It lasts about 2 or 3 hours, so I recommend doing that maybe in the morning, then going out and doing something in the afternoon.
Yeah, and if you are going to do something in the afternoon, you're a beach lover, then there are loads of different places to choose from. You've got white sand spots like Turtle Beach, and then black sand spaces like Pump Bay, which is absolutely stunning. Or what I think we both agree is the best beach in the whole of the area. It's the 3-mile long Penny's Beach, and that's over on Nevis, which is of course the smaller brother or the smaller sister island.
Yeah. And again, with that one, if you want to really get off St Kitts and you want to go to Nevis, they do a boat trip over there. They do a catamaran that's about 6 or 7 hour duration for the tour, and you can spend the day over there and literally plot up there and there's nothing there. Like take the barbecue. It's a nice way to spend the day. The other thing, which I always used to do, me and the captain used to sneak off, they've got St Kitts golf course there. Shot a 73 around there. Very nice.
Now next we're going to talk about St Maarten, and there are 2 St Maartens in this part of the world. We're talking about the one that's spelled Maarten. I hope that clears it up. But we're also talking about the one that is ruled by 2 different nations, because it's part French and part Dutch. And it's an amazing place, one of the favourite places to either go for a serious shopping splurge or head over to the French side where you get all the little bistros and that kind of je ne sais quoi.
Very nice. Okay, you're docking Philipsburg, and again, I would say this is one of the most popular destinations in the Caribbean, so you certainly will not be the only cruise ship in there. So there's a real buzz in the port area. And from here, my advice would be to possibly hire a car, motorbike, or they also do the quad bikes just at the end of the port area there, and simply drive around the island. You will find some amazing beaches. There are 37 in total, and maybe stop off at Fort Amsterdam around sunset to give you amazing opportunities for photos. And again, you might get a great picture of the ship. Only thing I would suggest with there is traffic is a bit of a nightmare. The ships come in, they just haven't built the road network there, so if you are out and about, give yourself plenty of time to come back to the ship.
Now Philipsburg's brilliant for shopping. We mentioned it before, and this is from like cut price island crafts to cutting edge designer gear and electronics. In fact, you'll see the crew members coming back with bargains that they've bartered for, and that's right, you can barter in all the shops, so never ever take the first price offered. Do your best to knock them down and get a bargain. And there's loads of popular tours to do on St Maarten, but probably one of the best, particularly if you're nature lovers, is the Butterfly Farm. This is just outside Philipsburg itself. It's home to more than 40 different species, including the famous tree nymph and the blue morph.
Sounds lovely.
You can also have a go at something known as a rhino rider, and then you rent those over the side of the island and you can do a tour right around the coast, which is a lot of fun. And possibly the best thing to do, if you're of the right mind, is Airport Beach.
Yeah, and again, if you're not sure about what Airport Beach is, Google it and go onto YouTube or one of those and you'll see what Airport Beach is.
Yeah, that's what we should say about it actually. Just Google Airport Beach.
St Maarten and you'll see it.
It's the best thing.
Make sure you hold on to the fence.
Next up on our highlights of the Eastern Caribbean, we're going to talk about St Thomas, and this is part of the American Virgin Islands that you will visit regularly if you're on a US-based cruise ship. If you're on a British-based one, you won't tend to, purely because the visa complications means that by the time you've gone through that whole process of immigration, it's not worth getting off.
Again, this is a real great one for beach lovers. You can head to Magan's Bay, and according to National Geographic, it's one of the world's best beaches, so you can spend some time there.
Brilliant. Now, if you're there with a family, definitely visit Blackbeard's Castle. It's a great place to go. It was originally built in 1679. Local legend has it that the fierce pirate Edward Teach, or Blackbeard as he was known, used to use it as a lookout to help him with his piracy. All you need to do is climb the 99 steps to get there. Do you know who killed Blackbeard?
No.
Lieutenant Maynard. One of my ancestors.
Oh, really? Yeah. My favourite place to visit is Coral World. It's a 4.5 acre marine park which features an underwater observatory with 360 degrees views of the fish and other sea creatures, and of course the opportunity to pet sharks and of course hand feed stingrays as well.
Now, if you don't mind heights, then definitely try what's called the Paradise Point Sky Ride, which sweeps you up the side of what's probably one of the Caribbean's most beautiful mountains. It takes about 15 minutes to get to the top, and the views as part of the journey are simply mind-blowing.
And nestled in the high peaks of St Thomas is St Peter's Great House, which was originally part of a 150 acre plantation. Today the Great House boasts classic West Indian architecture and 150 species of Caribbean plants and fruits.
Now, if you've been to St Thomas before, and want something different, then definitely try St John. It's the smallest of the US Virgin Islands. It's only about a 30-minute ferry ride away, and 2/3 of the island is actually national park. So you've got an amazing sugar plantation, you've got these ruins, and Trunk Bay, which is one of the favourite places to go.
Trunk Bay?
Bay.
Trunk Bay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm doing well with my pronunciations today, aren't I?
Let me see, Packy.
Now next up is Tortola. This is part of what we call the British Virgin Islands, and it's probably one of my favourite places in the whole of the Caribbean. It's a much smaller, less developed, less touristy, more laid back, and it's full of genuinely friendly people. They really, really are.
Nature's the star attraction in Tortola itself. You've got ancient rainforests, they hog the limelight, beautiful botanical gardens vie your attention, and opal white beaches like Apple Bay and Smuggler's Cove really do steal the show here.
Now if you head for Road Town's pretty main street, it's there you'll find a medley of shops and museums, some historical buildings, and some really beautifully brightly painted bungalows. Now nature lovers should definitely explore what's called the St Maarten National Park. It's the highest point in the BVI, the British Virgin Islands, and it's an oasis of tropical vines and trees and plants, and you can even saddle up and explore it by horseback.
Very nice. Now you can also go and see Carlos and his team that run Dolphin Discovery. It's a once in a lifetime experience, and again they run this throughout the day. It's normally one of the tours from the ship. You can do it independently, but again, if you're looking at doing this, it's not the cheapest thing to do, but if you want to swim with the dolphins, please make sure you get this booked in advance, because it does book up very, very quickly.
And it's incredible. It's one of those once in a lifetime experiences.
And do you know if you're pregnant you can't do it?
I know, because they sense it. They sense it and they become really protective.
I had a lady book it with me, with her family. The dolphins wouldn't go anywhere near her, okay? The guy went, I think you're pregnant. She went, no, I can't be. 95 quid she paid for that. It was the most expensive pregnancy test she ever had. She was pregnant.
She was.
Dolphin, yeah, the dolphin knew.
Dolphin test. It's
yeah,
the best test out there, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't get that in Boots.
Unbelievable. Now, the other thing you could do here is to explore Virgin Gorda. In fact, this is probably the most popular thing. It is a separate part of the BVI in itself, but the must-see here are the baths. It's a cluster of sea pools where you can swim or snorkel through the tunnels and the caves and the arches. And when you hear about Tortola or see photos of Tortola, 9 times out of 10 the photos you'll be seeing will be focusing on Virgin Gorda. We wanted to mention San Juan, and this is Puerto Rico. It's the capital, it's their largest city, and it sits on the island's Atlantic coast, and it's actually, would you believe it, Glenn, the oldest city under the American flag.
Really, and it's also become a very popular destination now as a turnaround port. We're doing a lot more cruises from San Juan. The main thing to do here is simply to walk around and wander around the old town of San Juan itself. The streets are paved with blue cobblestones and feature restored Spanish colonial buildings, painted in bright pastel colours and wrought iron balconies, and it's basically like a giant open-air museum.
Yeah, it's stunning. Now, San Juan is also the home to Bacardi rum, so definitely book a tour, try some rum tasting, and enjoy the replica distillery of how it all started.
Okay, nature lovers should definitely explore the El Yunque National Rainforest. In fact, it's made up of 5 different forests, including the cloud forest and the dwarf forest. It's home to the miniature trees, as well as the island's rare tree frogs.
There's also 2 great forts that dominate the skyline of San Juan, but out of the 2, my favourite is Fort San Cristobal, which is actually the largest fortification constructed by Spain in the New World, and the view alone makes it worth the climb up. Now, next up, Eastern Caribbean cruise itineraries. First of all, we should say they probably offer you the biggest choice of the itineraries in the region, because again, this is such a popular place to cruise. Now you can do shorter 3 to 5 day cruises pretty much year round out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale and Port Canaveral, and these tend to visit just 1 or 2 of the main islands we've talked about.
But the biggest selection of itineraries will tend to last between 7 and 10 days and take in San Juan, St Thomas, St Maarten, and maybe even the Bahamas, departing from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Barbados and Port Canaveral. And again, these will be all year round, with the exception of the UK companies cruising out of Barbados.
Now, interestingly, Glenn, New York has recently become a really popular port to leave from to head out to the Caribbean.
The other popular one we really do is also the ones where we do the flyover to Niagara, then go down to New York, 3 days in New York, then sailing out of there and then doing one of the Caribbean islands. And I would say that's probably one of our most popular packages we do.
So consider it, New York as a destination point to go cruise the Caribbean. If you want more details, click the link there and it will take you through to some of our destination experts who can help you and give you some advice.
People always ask what sort of ships go down into the Caribbean. Virtually every big ship cruise line from America to Europe offers seasonal, if not year-round trips down to the Eastern Caribbean.
Now, Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Disney and Princess have a year-round presence, and on a seasonal basis, December to April, you'll find every other line.
Luxury lines occasionally cruise the Eastern Caribbean as well. You've got Regent 7 Sea Cruises, Silver Sea, Crystal and Oceania visit the region a few times a year as well.
And finally, we just want to give you a few tips for cruising around the Eastern or just the Caribbean in general. The first one, of course, has to be probably the most obvious one. Pack loads and loads of suntan lotion and always take a bottle of drinking water with you.
Because it does get hot. The other thing as well, it's going to get wet as well. Take a lightweight rain mat with you, because at some point during the day, even if you leave in the morning, it's bright sunshine, you'll probably get a tropical downpour at some point.
Also, pack a light jacket for the evening, as it does turn chilly after dark. If you want a less touristy experience on some of the more developed islands, then definitely always do some research ahead of time. Maybe watch a Planet Cruise Weekly, for instance, and then head out of town, or ask the entertainment crew for their advice on board. And the reason I specify the entertainment crew is because they're the ones that tend to have a little bit more time to go off and explore.
Yeah, and just make sure you know what time you need to be back on board, and give yourself plenty of time, because some of these islands do get very busy with traffic, so give yourself plenty of time.
Hopefully that's been helpful, and you've got something from our Eastern Caribbean sojourn.
Do you think people do?
I hope so.
I hope they do,
I
don't
hope
they?
they do, yeah.
We do. Well, we've been there.
Why
So
are we doing this?
I don't know. I'm not sure sometimes, but I just hope people take a little bit of advice, and then they need to do their own research as well. But I did 8 years in the Caribbean, and I think after 6 or 7 years you become a bit blasé about it, and now I really miss the Caribbean. Can't wait to take the family back next year, but yeah, it's great over there.
Glenn, if people do want to get in touch, how do they do that?
A number of different ways. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, check us out on YouTube, obviously go to the Planet Cruise website. You can also email us at hello@planetcruise.co.uk. But the best way is, said, if you're not sure about the cruising, go on the website, get a bit of an idea what you're looking at, and then give us a call in the office. We're very, very friendly, and we'll make sure you get on one of these cruises.
And we want to say thank you to these people that have been in touch over the last week. And again, we're sorry we couldn't get everyone's comment in, but here's just a couple. So a big thank you, first of all, to How Load. He says, I think I speak for most people when saying it was a delightfully informed, professional, relaxed, and light-humoured presentation. Can't afford a cruise, though.
Oh dear.
Oh, no.
Shall we whip round?
We should have a whip round. You know, you were speaking about myself and Jade there, though, not me and you.
Oh, right, okay, gotcha.
So thanks for that, Hal. And the other one there was Kath, our Kath Ryan, who's a regular contributor to our show, and she's given us a useful tip. She said, best tip is, don't take sandwiches with you when you're going on board a ship, even if you're on the 8:30 dinner, because there's food available in the buffet from the moment you get on board.
No one's ever starved on a cruise ship, have they?
No one ever has. No, you're right.
Definitely not. So there'll always be something to eat.
But definitely thank you very much, Kath, for the advice. Now, what can we say? Tune in next week where we've got another exciting episode. Thanks for watching this, and in the meantime, have a safe time doing whatever you're doing.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.